I just want to I want to move on to another. I've made a few posts recently about the psyche of MAGA, and I'm currently drafting one now about some of the things that I guess I'm trying to explain why it is that you still have MAGA people even today, right? Why, despite everything that we see, he's plainly incompetent, he's lawless, he's corrupt. He's just, he's the worst example of a president. He's the worst example of a human being I can come to mind with right now. Why do they still defend and support him right now? I mean, we get the comments in our social media posts. These people are, and what is kind of notable to me is the level of vitriol behind them. And, it's one thing to basically be wrong. It's another thing, to basically just hate anyone who disagrees with you. And in this case, MAGA people are still pissed off. They still think that the 2020 election was stolen. And I think the reason that is because if you think about it, they have been taught that we are the enemy. That's anyone who is not one of them is the enemy. I think I've mentioned this before. And so when you've been indoctrinated into thinking that, half the population in this country, your fellow citizens, are the enemy, and that it's not just that we're disagreeing with them and so that we're opponents, we're the enemy, which means that we want to destroy America. And you hear this again and again. They're like, the Democrats want to destroy America. Why we would want to destroy America? They never go that far, right? It's just, we do. We'll take that, we'll run with it, and we're not going to think about it anymore. Well, when somebody wants to destroy your way of life, destroy the country as you see it, as you think it should be, it becomes existential. And so that you're now playing with the rules of war. And of course, the rules of war are there are no rules. And that's really where they are. They really think that we're the enemy of this country, the enemy of the way they think it should be. And it's because of that, no matter what we say, no matter what argument we present, even if it's an argument that can be proven with eyesight, they are going to basically dispute it. They're going to try to change the narrative. They're going to try to what about and try to get away from it. And I think this, just tracing it back, this kind of all goes back to really, I think, when Reagan basically repealed the fairness doctrine back in 1987. Prior to that, a broadcaster, if they had a particularly heavy political slant one way or the other, they were required to provide equal time to the opposing viewpoint. Basically, that's it. That's a synopsis of what it is. And he said we didn't need that anymore. And then promptly, 1 year later, Rush Limbaugh basically goes on air nationwide with his show. And then you fast forward a few years later, to 1991, Newt Gingrich comes out with the memo that was distributed via GOPAC, his political action committee. Language.
Oh, that's a blast from the past. GOPAC.
I knew you'd like that. Language. This is the
MAGA
title.
Before they knew they were MAGA.
This is where it started. The title of it was Language, a Key Mechanism of Control. And he basically was instructing Republican candidates to use words to identify themselves as prosperity and courage. And when you refer to your Democratic opponent, you use words like sick and traitor and radical. And that's where this whole thing started, really. And through the next, 30 years plus, basically it's evolved into this whole cult thing. But they were taught back then. It's not just, there's always been that left-right divide, of course, but we never thought of each other as being like a traitor or a radical, right? And that's kind of where
now we have actual traitors. Now we have people that do want to destroy the country in charge of the country.
Well, I mean, this was the Republican side, and here we are today because the Republican Party is really not even a political party anymore.
No,
right?
No,
it's not. It is a cult,
right.
And it is.
I was going to say